Hello and welcome to the Financial Wellness Hour. I am your host, Hirsch Serman, and happy to have you join us today on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. Since this is the first show of the year, I think I can still wish everybody a happy new year, and I hope that January is treating you well. This show is for creating financial wellness, and we're going to look at different life cycles. We're going to look at them both emotionally and financially, because most of our money decisions are really not about the finances, but more about the emotions that are associated with our finances. We might be a little general in our discussion, but we would love to hear from you. So please reach out to me on my website, lifecycle.financial. That's lifecycle.financial. I think it goes without saying that we love our kids, and probably more than anything else on earth, and we want the best for them. Not only the best for them, but at least more than we ourselves have for ourselves. And they tend to be our legacy and who we brag about to anyone who will listen all the time. Unfortunately, they also are the people that are generally overlooked most when it comes to people going through a divorce. Today, we are going to explore what is a child-centered divorce, and I'm really excited to have Rosalind Sedacca join me. She's coming back on the show. Rosalind is a certified divorce coach, is recognized as the voice of child-centered divorce. She is a divorce and co-parenting coach. She is the founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, which provides advice, programs, coaching, and other valuable resources for parents who are going through divorce, facing divorce, and even beyond divorce. She is also the host of her own show, Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living, as well as the founder of International International Child-Centered Divorce Month. And I just got to say much more, but we want to get into the show, so we're going to skip the rest, Rosalind, if you don't mind. And welcome back. It is such a privilege to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I always enjoy talking with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And as I start every show, I do think it's so important, though, that you share a little bit about your background, what you went through, and I think it'll help people understand the passion and towards what you've created.
Well, thank you. Yes, I agree. I was a parent who was struggling in my marital relationship for many, many years, and put off a divorce because I didn't want to mess my child up. And finally, when he was 11 years old, there was so much tension at home, and he was starting to get stress headaches, and I could see that this was not a good environment for him to be raised in. And I knew that he would be better off if both of us were living in separate homes and would continue the family relationship, but in a different form. And my husband and I decided that the divorce would make a lot of sense. And we had a divorce, learned how to go through not only the divorce, but the co-parenting, which is the most important thing after divorce when you're a parent. And we raised my son to an adult. And one day when he was in his early 20s, he came to me out of the blue and he said, "You know, Ma, you and Daddy really did a good job with the divorce. And I just want to thank you, because most of my friends whose parents divorced either hate their parents or are very angry at them. Wow. And I think you two did a great job." And I was just so caught off guard and let out such a sigh of relief. What a wonderful thing to hear. And I realized that over the years, I had learned a tremendous amount about what to do, what not to do, how to co-parent effectively, and how to give my child the best option to raise him post-divorce. And that became a catalyst in my life for founding the Child-Centered Divorce Network, and ultimately becoming a divorce and co-parenting coach, and writing several ebooks and e-courses and programs to help people before, during, and long, long after divorce. And that's what's bringing us to our conversation today. I've been doing this for over 17 years now.
Yeah, I think that there's one thing for somebody to read a book of yours, see a podcast, and say, "I really appreciated it." Somebody who lived it with you and went through the stress with you, that I am not sure there's a better testimonial than your child being able to come to you and say that, for sure. That's a wonderful, wonderful story in that way. and what you were able to accomplish. And I do think, taking care of our children is at the top of our list. It should be at the top of our list. And we want them to come through with as little adverse impact as possible. Being mindful of this, though, is important. I'm not sure everyone is always mindful because they're trying to take care of themselves. Can you share a little bit more about what is Child-Centered Divorce Month and the goal of why you created it and the goal of why it's around still?
Well, thank you. Yes. So every month is Child-Centered Divorce Month, in the sense that anyone who's having a divorce, we want to be mindful about protecting our children in every possible way. But it turns out that January is a huge month for the initiations of new divorces. A lot of parents, understandably, will wait till after the holiday season. If they're making a decision and thinking about divorce, they'll wait until January before they initiate that divorce. And also there's tax reasons and a lot of other factors that come into play. So between January and March is a very intense time for new divorces, and families are stuck with mid-school year. Children are learning this information, which is very frightening for them, and they don't know what to expect in the future. Lots of insecurities come up. So it's a time when we want to really focus on educating parents, especially, as well as educators and the media, about what does this mean for individual children. So International Child-Centered Divorce Month, I started 17 years ago as a way of bringing divorce experts around the world together, providing free gifts, free resources for parents that they could just download from a simple website, and they could get as many gifts as they want, all of that one website. They could come back as often as they want and take advantage of more gifts. And so we have ebooks and e-courses and video programs and tip sheets and other valuable resources that are all complimentary from divorce experts who share one thing. They all care and are compassionate about helping parents before, during, and after divorce. So there's a broad range of experts, and the goal is to make life easier for everyone in the family when a divorce is part of the reality that happens to that family.
And I just, a quick plug for that. I can't speak to this year's. I haven't been on yet. I apologize. But I do remember last year you had an enormous amount of people, and from all over the world, literally, which in itself is amazing. I'm also very happy, by the way, that you did say being child-centered is a concept to take way beyond the divorce and beyond January, right? All the way through the year, because sometimes we get so focused on something going on and it's intense, and then we kind of go into our usual routine. So I'm very happy, and I think it's important that people understand that. And yes, my understanding is January may actually be the month that most people file for divorce for various reasons, and some you mentioned. It does become something that at least helps them from the beginning focus on some of the things that are important, which is a difficult thing to do, especially if you're not familiar with the process. And I think there are many considerations when you're contemplating. Generally, children do sense something's wrong. They can sense and feel changes and tension. They sometimes may believe they're the cause of everything going on, which is a horrible burden for a child to have to carry, I would think.
Yes.
What do so many divorcing parents kind of fail to understand, and how should they, if there is a right way, how should they be telling their children, this is a decision that we've made and we are getting divorced? That can't be an easy thing, and it should be done, I would imagine, a very gentle way for kids to really be able to take it in.
It's one of the most difficult conversations any parent is ever going to have with a child. And you're so right about that. This is a very scary topic because children don't have any experience with divorce, nor do they expect that to happen in their lives. So it's very difficult. The number one factor to remember is that our children are always innocent. They're never to blame. Even if parents are fighting about the kids, it's never the kid's fault. This is an adult relationship issue, and only adults can fix the issue. So we never want our children to feel in any way that they're responsible or to blame for the divorce, or that they should be involved in the adult details. A lot of kids, especially precocious children, want to ask a lot of questions about this. And we have to remind them that this is between your two parents. We created this mess, so to speak, and we're going to undo it in the best possible way because we love you and care about you. But you do not have to be responsible for sharing adult information with children. And you never want to be saying to them, if your dad wasn't an alcoholic, we wouldn't be doing this. If your mom didn't have an affair, we wouldn't be in this mess. That's not the appropriate language, even if it's true, because if a child can't fix a relationship, then they should not be privy to the information about it, adult information. And no child can fix a relationship. We ourselves haven't been able to, and we certainly can't expect our children to be doing that. So we have to put ourselves in our children's shoes and experience the divorce through them at their ages. And divorce is very different for a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old and a 12-year-old and a 19-year-old. And so we want to be aware of what their experience is, what their past experience is in the home and the relationship with their both parents, and what life is going to be looking like moving forward. So we want to give them information that's going to be as comforting and secure for them as possible. And that is to remind them that they're not to blame, to remind them that this is a change in the form of our family, but will always be a family. They are not losing either parent. And hopefully that's not the case. There are some exceptions when that has to be the case, when you really do have a toxic parent. But in most cases, we want the children to know that they are not losing access to either parent, and that both parents love them and always will love them, and no one is divorcing them, because a lot of children can misconstrue and think, if my parents once loved each other and now they're getting divorced, maybe they're going to divorce me in 2 years or 10 years. And of course, they need to understand that's not the case, that the love that the parents have for them is infinite and will always be there for them. And they need to hear these kinds of messages again and again to reinforce it, and let them know that both parents are working on this together because we want what's best for everyone in the family.
No, I think what you're saying is enormous. One of the big things I just want to reiterate, if I'm hearing correctly, also is we should be saying it in a way that they will understand and really comprehend. Because, as you said, if you've got a 3 or 4-year-old, they may be too young to really know and understand what is going on and comprehend what does this mean for 6 months and 6 years down the road. Absolutely. I think it's also an opportunity to role model how to go through and deal with adversity. You may be the one that initiated it. You may not be the one that initiated it. It still gives you an opportunity to live with integrity and show your children how you go through adversity with coming out on the other side intact, so to speak, with your integrity. And I also think, to have to co-parent with your children from afar, so to speak, is a big challenge. And that is where someone like yourself comes in. Yes, it's one thing to sculpt a message up front, but how do we live that message for the rest of our lives? And sometimes you need a lot of help with that. It's not always an easy dynamic. And I think that's where someone like yourself can bring such valuable information, guidance, and the myriad of resources that you have available as well.
You're so right. And part of that is because I'm dispassionate. I'm an objective third party. And it's very important for the children and the parents to both understand that I am not siding with genders. So this isn't a mom issue or a dad issue. This is a protecting your children issue. And I love to speak to both parents together, which a lot of divorce coaches don't do. But I find if I could get to the parents as early on as possible and explain to them what the purpose of my being invited into this dynamic is, and that is to help both parents understand the best ways to do things and not do things so that they can protect their innocent children. It's really helpful because I'm speaking for the kids. Too often parents get so attached to their own feelings, their own drama, their own pain and hurt. And there's a lot of suffering and pain that can happen in a divorce. And sometimes they lose track of what the kids are experiencing and feeling. And I'm there to remind them that these innocent children need to be protected and supported and know that they matter, that they count. And they may be saying things that we don't want to hear, and it's okay for them to vent. I don't like this. I'm very angry at you for doing this to me. You know, they need to be heard and acknowledged. Your feelings count, even if we can't always do everything to address what they want. They matter and they count, and that helps them to feel that they can move through and accept the changes in life. The more we talk about the fact that life is filled with changes, that we change grades in school and hairstyles and friends and sports and all of those things, it's a natural part of life. Well, this divorce is a big change in our family dynamic, but it's not the end. It's just a change, a shift, and there's going to be other chapters ahead. And that gives the kids something to look forward to and to understand that life is a continuum and this isn't a dead end in their lives. And that'll help them adjust much, much better and more rapidly.
You know, and I think having someone like yourself also brings such awareness, and you're not going to change your actions or the way you behave without awareness because you're just not aware. I'll give you one quick example. I always found it very comfortable to sit back and cross my arms. And somebody once said to me, you know, you're a pretty nice guy, but you always have this negative body language. And I didn't know what they were talking about until he pointed out. You lean back, you close yourself off, right? I think often communication is a very big issue in a marriage. And that could even be sometimes the reason people are getting divorced. They cannot communicate. They're not on the same page. Having someone like yourself, which you say you're dispassionate in that situation, I'm going to say you're very passionate about what you do, but you are dispassionate, you're objective, and you can bring to the table awareness in a way that sometimes is not tainted with, you know, all the years of history that have been in that relationship, but you can bring that to them and create an awareness and help them communicate in a way that they could never figure out to do on their own. And that's a big part of co-parenting, is really being on the same page and how you communicate, especially related to your children.
Well, that's a very important point you're making, Hirsch, and that's the fact that communication issues are usually the bottom behind so many problems in our lives, of all facets of our lives, are communication issues. And it's especially so in divorce and parenting issues. And we want to be very aware that there are other ways of saying things, and there are other ways of bringing topics up, and there's ways of listening better. We speak much more than we listen, and we're not hearing one another. So learning ways of communicating and not putting the other person on the defensive is very important, especially when you're going through a divorce. And we're also role models for our parents, so they're watching and learning from us. If we treat each other in abusive ways, if both parents do, and we put each other down and we disrespect one another, we make those facial expressions and roll our eyes, and kids pick up on that. Yeah. What are we showing them about how to handle people at work and in school and in friends when you have disagreements, which are inevitable? So they're watching and learning from us now in a very important time in their lives. Yeah. And we can make a huge difference in steering them in a direction towards higher self-esteem and more confidence moving forward, and understanding that learning how to communicate effectively is going to be a skill that they'll take with them in every facet of their lives.
So we've touched on a couple, but I'm going to ask if you can talk a little bit more. Maybe I think it's very important people understand, what are some of the mistakes that parents need to avoid when they go through the divorce process? Yes. And we've touched on some, but if any others that you can think of that maybe we should be highlighting for people.
Very important is never to fight around the children. Studies have shown repeatedly that tension and fighting around children is harmful for them. It affects them emotionally and psychologically. It changes who they are. And that's what creates lasting scars and problems in their lives. So keep the fighting away from the ears and the eyes of the children. And that means postponing disagreements until we have time to be alone where we can talk about it. Bad-mouthing one another and putting each other down in any form is also bad for children, because they are torn. They love both parents in most cases, and they're very torn. They want to protect one of the parents or both, and they are powerless to be able to do that. What's related to all of this is making your children becoming your therapist. Very important to avoid that.
Yes.
You don't want your children to feel that they are there to take care of you, to protect you, to parent you. We are their parents, and they need the relief of knowing that their parents are responsible, mature adults who are handling everything. So the more that both parents can make decisions together to the children, and if a child asks a question, you say, that's a good question. Your father and I are going to talk about that. Mom and I are going to get back to you, and after we discuss this. That gives them the sense that their parents are still parents. They're still parental role models despite the divorce. And then moving ahead in years and years of co-parenting ahead, they still have two parents who can talk. Sadly, that's not always the case. But the more you can both talk together and then get back to your children, the smoother it is for your children to adapt and accept whatever the decisions are, understanding that they still have two parents at the helm, and they're watching and learning from you. So everything you do and everything you say is lessons for them, good or bad. So you want to make sure you're not letting your children parent you, and you want to make sure that your children are not becoming the little messengers. It's much easier to use the online tools that are available for co-parenting, so that you don't have to say to your 7-year-old, tell daddy I'm going to be a half an hour late tonight. That's not the child's responsibility, even when they're older teenagers. Children will mess up intentionally or by accident. They'll forget, they'll make mistakes, and it isn't their responsibility. So you have to step up and make mature, wise, responsible decisions every step of the way, and your children will thank you when they're grown up.
Every single one, spot on. I can't say. I do think often people are in their own stress, and they not always aware of that. But there are so many resources available today that can help you with some of these things. For example, as you said, there are a million apps. I don't want to say a million, but there's enough where you can communicate directly with that parent, and it doesn't have to be face to face, but you can still give the message, I'm going to be half an hour late. And yes, I love that. Don't use your kids as the intermediary. Don't be the child, be the parent. Everything that you said was spot on. And obviously, as sorry, were you going to say something?
I was just going to add that there's a wonderful co-parenting online program that's very inexpensive called New Beginnings. And if you just Google New Beginnings, it's available online, and it's researched to show that in a very short number of weeks online, parents can get information that has been proven to be effective and useful and helpful to smooth the co-parenting process and make things much easier and happier for the parents, which will make it easier and happier for the children. So I highly recommend that program, New Beginnings.
So I hope they're paying you for that. No, as we said, there are some, there's a lot of them, but you also got to make sure the tool is the right tool for you. Just like the professional that you use, make sure. I've heard of that one. It's always had very, very good. It's got a great reputation, very good reviews. So definitely look into any of the resources. And again, this is another reason to go to the website, because they're going to have an enormous amount of resources there, many free giveaways. You can go to both, the one on the screen if you're watching, divorceparentsupport.com. That is for January, specifically for International Child-Centered Divorce Month. And Rosalind's is childcentereddivorce.com. Also an enormous amount of wonderful information on there. And as everybody knows, most or many family units have children. As important as it is to make sure you are okay, it's equally important to make sure your kids are okay through the process, to give them a voice, to make sure that they are being heard, because we don't always hear, unfortunately, in our own pain. So I'm going to ask, or how can a divorce and co-parenting coach reduce the stress and confusion for everyone in the family?
By reminding them that everyone matters and that what we say and do matters immensely, so that we don't just off the cuff take action and do and say things. We need to be responsible and mindful about what we say and do. So putting ourselves in our children's shoes to start is always the best way, because it just reminds us that they have the capacity to accept only so much stress and tension before it starts really affecting them on a long-term basis. And so we want to reach out and get help and support. That's what coaches are for, therapists are for. That's why there are school counselors, there are support groups, there's lots of resources. And of course, during January for Child-Centered Divorce Month, if you go to divorcedparentsupport.com, you'll find tons of free gifts, free resources. You can choose as many as you want, get every one of them, and they're all from divorce experts around the world. So the more you're aware and learn about these things, the more powerful you feel and the more empowered you are in making decisions that you know are right, because you're making decisions that are coming from the right place, which is from the heart place, not from resentment and hurting the other parent, because when you hurt the other parent, you're inadvertently hurting your children who love that parent, who want a relationship with that parent. And that makes a difference between having what I call a happy ending in the divorce, when your children grow up to be happy, responsible adults, or when they're scarred and angry and resentful and hateful toward their parents because they know their parents made choices that are destructive for the children and didn't put the children first.
So, and understanding that everyone's divorce is a personal experience, I would put out there, with all the resources, make sure that they fit your needs and your situation. There is an enormous amount of wonderful resources out there, and you'll see common themes, I think, out there as you do your research. But please make sure it's applicable to your situation, because everyone's situation is unique for them. And I'm going to ask, what advice would you give somebody starting the divorce process, especially related to the children, but as they contemplating and going into the process, which a lot of people are, as we said earlier, in January, February, March, what can you kind of give them as a quick takeaway from that perspective? Yes.
So think before you speak and get all your ducks in a row so that you have the details and a lot of the issues regarding the divorce somewhat planned out, but you don't have to have all the details in place to have meaningful conversations with your children, because your children aren't as much concerned about specific details as they are as the emotional environment. What they want to know is whether the parents are respecting each other and talking well about one another, and talking about the fact that we think everyone in the family will be happier if we're living in two separate homes and you have special time with one parent, special time with the other parent, and life will be smoother and happier. And in many families, life really is better after the divorce. So you want the kids to have a feeling that there is something to look forward to ahead, that this isn't the end of the world. Children who start the process with that in mind and feel supported by both parents do so much better than children whose parents are bad-mouthing one another, tearing each other apart, or disrespecting the other parent so that the child feels so confused about which way to show their allegiance. Right. It's harmful for children to be expected to have adult behavior. We don't expect that from them, and we don't want to put adult responsibilities on their heads. And so the easier you can make it, the more both parents can talk to one another and talk to the children together, is just another level of helping the kids and reminding you that you are role models every step of the way in everything you do as parents. And so take that seriously. This is not the end of the world. And in many families, it's really the beginning of a happier future and a happier outcome for everyone in the family. But that depends on you. Reach out for help, because the more support you get, the better the decisions will be that you make. And the quicker, smoother, and more easily you could go through the divorce itself, move into successful co-parenting and have a happy future for everyone in the family. And there's lots to talk about and think about it regarding dating after divorce, blending families, and all of that. So that's another arena that I have a lot to say about, but it's important to just be aware that that's part of the future for all of you in the family.
I think we could do a whole show on dating and introducing your kids to new significant others and blending families for sure. And several wonderful takeaways for people and insights for people to think about. We got to start wrapping up. I do just want to come back to the website that you put together, that you've been doing, as you said, for 17 years, this International Month. And it's related, obviously, to the Child-Centered Divorce Month. It's quite unique. There's nothing else like it. It's got a lot of resources, etc. I know in the past, and I'm sure this year, there have been some freebies and giveaways and things. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about what they'll see on the site? What are some of the freebies? And I just encourage everybody to visit that, no matter what stage of the divorce you're in. It doesn't have to be.
Absolutely, I agree. So everything's free. There's nothing there other than all free resources and gifts from divorce experts around the world. So you go to divorceparentsupport.com and you just enter your email address, and instantly you'll get to the page with all of the gifts, and you could just click and download as many as you want or come back as many times as you want. It's only in January, so you want to make sure that you take advantage of all the free gifts in January. And the divorce experts are coaches and attorneys and mediators and therapists and financial planners and people who care about co-parenting, blended families, all of the issues that we're talking about and you'll be dealing with are being addressed there with ebooks and e-courses and video programs and tip sheets and support systems of all kinds. So you're getting really valuable information, and everyone who's participating is a child-centered professional, someone who really cares about the well-being of the children, everyone in the family. And so their hearts are in this, and I feel very comfortable recommending all of their services because they're wonderful resources that I've personally vetted every one of them, and I feel so proud to be able to talk about the people involved in the Child-Centered Divorce, International Child-Centered Divorce Month.
I think it was 2 years ago that one of the clients that I referred to go look at the website came back and said, I had no idea there were so many people in so many disciplines that focus on helping people get through divorce. So that alone might be worthy of really understanding what resources are out there for you, let alone you could probably download 25, 30 easily, if not more, different things that you can ponder and think through and work through on your own time as well. And I do encourage everyone to go there. It's divorcedparentsupport.com. You can also very encouraged, go to Child-Centered Divorce. That one's around all 12 months, but divorcedparentsupport.com is only available for about another 27 days. So please go there. And Rosalind, we really always learn something new, always appreciate your insights. And thank you for always being so willing to come out and share them, that it just helps me be a better practitioner. It helps, I think, everybody who hears you. So thank you for that. Thank you for what you've put together. I am Hirsch Serman, your host for the Financial Wellness Hour. Please reach out to me through my website, lifecycle.financial. That's lifecycle.financial. For any questions, or if you need to get a hold of Rosalind as well, I can certainly direct you that way. And thank you, CC Schatz, for making this all possible. The magic that you do behind just makes what I do very simple and very easy to do and very enjoyable. So thank you for that. And I wish everybody an amazing year. And I look forward to you tuning into my next show. Thank you.